It's time. It's here. Y'all, student loan forgiveness, the day that we have been waiting for pretty much since Biden came into office, is finally here, hot off the presses. He's gonna have his official announcement at 2:15 p.m. today, which is August 24th right now as I'm recording this video. However, in advance of that announcement, there was already information that has gone out, published by the White House on the studentaid.gov website, detailing what exactly is supposed to be going on. So let's get into it. So in short, here's what's happening. Three major things. Major thing number one, the repayment pause is now extended until December 31st. So nothing to do there. Business as usual. They're just going to keep rolling this thing along to December 31st, which, as we predicted, it has happened. There is no way that we were supposed to be going back into repayment on August 31st. There's way too much happening, way too little lead time. Servicers are changing. People are getting their loans transferred all over the place. It was pretty much impossible for them to restart payments on August 31st. So thankfully, they said that this is the final extension. I mean, we've heard that before, but it probably is final this time. That they are moving that deadline to December 31st, 2022. Repayment will resume in January. Thing number two, and the thing that we're all probably the most excited about, is student loan cancellation / forgiveness. So what is happening? For most federal student loan borrowers, we are now eligible for up to $10,000 of student loan forgiveness. This forgiveness is subject to income limitations. They're saying $125,000 for single folk and $250,000 for anybody who is married. If you received a Pell Grant while you were in college, you can get up to $20,000 of your student loans automatically forgiven / canceled. Now, this part has left us honestly with a lot more questions than answers, right? It's great, we know that something is coming, but I got questions. My first concern is on the legality of all of this. So we have previously made videos around student loan forgiveness and updates, and I know one major concern was that they weren't even sure if they could legally just forgive people student loans like that. And Biden had his team looking into this, into the legality of all of this for a really long time, right? This was like last year, April. So we're over a year removed from this point where his team had started to look into that. I don't remember seeing any official stance that was put out by the US government on this, but obviously he thinks that this is a go. Hopefully this isn't a move that gets challenged, because that would be super terrible and super awful to basically make a promise that you potentially can't keep. We know that student loan forgiveness is a very divisive issue. There are lots of people on either side of the fence. Some people who, even with this announcement, will think he should have done way more. And some who are big mad because they've either paid off their loans already or never had to take out loans, and they think that for some reason it's costing them. So hopefully we actually see this go through, and hopefully there aren't a lot of hiccups. My second concern is around the logistics. So they're saying these income caps, but income as of when? Is it 2021? Is it 2020? Is it an earlier year? They haven't announced that quite yet. As of the recording of this video, we'll wait to see what Biden says at 2:15, which from when I'm recording this video is approximately 2 hours from now. And they're saying that for people whose income has already been reported to the government, for example, people who were already on some type of income-driven repayment plan, that they're going to use that information. The problem is that most people, a lot of people haven't recertified their income since before the pandemic started. So they don't even know if this is still current income, right? Like what's going on. And then for those of us who haven't been on income-driven repayment plans or income-based repayment plans, they're saying now that they're going to come up with this little application that we're supposed to fill out to report our income to qualify for this forgiveness, and that the application will be available before December 31st. So note that they didn't say your loans will be forgiven in time for repayment. That is a major concern, right? Because if the application doesn't open until later, or they take really long to process, it's also possible that we could be repaying student loans that then have to go get forgiven, right? It's a little bit messy and a little bit confusing. So that's like another major concern around this whole thing, and an outstanding question that I at least have. I also didn't see this explicitly stated. I'm assuming that all borrowers with federal loans qualify, because they did not exclude or make caveats for any, types of loans that were traditionally excluded from this whole pandemic forbearance benefits in the first place, right? I didn't see Parent Plus loan borrowers excluded. It didn't make mention of any exclusions. So my assumption and my hope is that all of us qualify, including parent borrowers, but we'll see how this goes. Another question / concern that I have is what happens to people who have been making payments on their student loans throughout the pandemic. So as we've previously talked about, anybody who's made student loan payments during this virus forbearance is technically eligible for a refund of any of those payments that were made. So if you're in a position where you either paid off your loans or paid down below the amount that's going to be forgiven, is it at all possible that you could get a refund for those payments while you're waiting for your loans to be forgiven so that a higher amount can be forgiven, if that makes sense, right? That is something that hopefully they will address, because I know that there are probably a lot of people who are in that position as well. And I hope that they make allowances for that, because I think it'll be unfair to stipulate that, yeah, you can get your money back, but oh no, we're not going to forgive your loans because you already paid them down during this virus forbearance. Another question in my head is, how are these payments going to be applied? I am making the assumption that whatever default settings you have set up in your student loan account will remain in terms of how payments are going to be applied. We talked about the best and most efficient way to pay down your loans in this video up here. I'm going to make sure to relink it in the cards, right? I personally have my settings on that any payments that go to my account automatically get applied to the loan with the highest interest rate. But that may not be the settings that you have set up. So you want to double check on that. And I really hope that that's the way that they're going to apply this cancellation, is canceling out, the loans that we've set up that we want it to actually go to first. And then another question I have is, how does this affect current student loan borrowers, right? People who are starting school this semester, for example, who technically may not even have their first loans post yet because school hasn't really started. Or even incoming students and future students, right? I think this is like a temporary band-aid. Happy for it, glad for it, we'll take what we can get. But how does this affect incoming classes, especially in periods of high inflation now where student loan interest rates are on the rise? The third major thing that came out of today's announcement is changes to income-based repayment plans. So what they're trying to do, and I'm going to look down and actually reference the things right here on my phone that I'm seeing in the announcement, is they are capping income-based repayment amounts to 5% of discretionary income on undergrad loans versus the 10% that they currently do. So a lot of borrowers might see that their new monthly payment might be a lot smaller, even if they're making the same income. Now, I just used the word discretionary income. What that basically means is that there's a certain amount of income that the government shields, kind of as a baseline thing before they calculate what that 5 or 10% in this case will be. So what they're going to do is raise the amount of what they call non-discretionary income. So that way it hopefully will result in smaller payments for a number of borrowers as well. Another thing is that regardless of if you were on public service loan forgiveness or any one of those special programs, typically, borrowers who are on income-based repayment are eligible to get their loans forgiven after 20 years of repayment. Now, that is a taxable forgiveness in most cases, all right? What they're trying to do is to lower that time limit to 10 years. So after 10 years of being on an income-based repayment plan, they're trying to make sure that your loans get forgiven at that point. Again, I will stress, this is typically a taxable forgiveness. It is not like public service loan forgiveness where you don't have to pay taxes on the amount forgiven. And then what they're also trying to do is to make sure that loan balances don't continue to increase, because there are some borrowers whose monthly payments aren't even enough to cover the interest that accrues on the account. Mishak is a prime example of that. I think his payment is still technically $12 a month, right? What is that covering in interest? So I think what they're trying to do is to make sure that your balance doesn't kind of get out of whack and you have kind of runaway interest because your payments aren't even enough to cover the interest that accrues on your account. So what they're trying to basically do is to cap that interest accrual. They're basically saying that as long as you keep up with your monthly payments, your loan balance will not continue to grow. So in short, a lot of welcome changes, but also a lot of questions, honestly. So I will be right here on top of all the news, the latest and greatest, y'all already know, in terms of how this actually plays out, the logistics, any further updates that we get from the Biden administration. We will definitely be making a lot more content on this topic. In fact, I think our next video will probably go into more detail as to how this announcement affects our personal student loan repayment journey, as you all have been watching our journey for the past couple of years. So stay tuned for that. And also, if you want to learn about how Mishak and I have grown our net worth by a combined $180,000 in the past 3 years without six-figure salaries, make sure that you join our free webinar. It is called the Financial Freedom Formula, How to Build Wealth Without a Six-Figure Salary. The link will be down in the description box below and linked in the cards, and I hope to see you there. Thank you so much for watching, and we will definitely be seeing you real soon.